Snow White 2025 is going to come out, and man, am I not looking forward to it. So, in dishonor of Snow White 2025, I'm going to give my thoughts on a grab bag of random Disney remakes. So, let's start off with Cinderella 2015. I don't hate it, but I don't like it at the same time. I liked that the dialogue felt like it was written by an actual person and not a robot trying to understand the human, but save for the CGI, visually I can deal with this, mainly because I think Cinderella as a story is a bit more grounded compared to what else there is to offer. Likewise, Jungle Book 2016 has the whole I don't love it or hate it either way. Pete's Dragon, I actually think is good, though besides the art direction, seriously, a fluffy dragon? Why not reptilian? I do question the villain, though. From my recollection of the original, the villain was more memorable, as in, he was some kind of quack who wanted to sell Elliot the dragon as medicine, and that honestly is far more memorable than what we got in this movie. Also, I would have liked Elliot, again, to be a reptile, because at least we could have had a snake oil salesman joke with the whole evil medicine man thing. Beauty and the Beast is hitting the wall hard. It is unpleasant to look at. It is equally unpleasant to listen to. You cannot have a musical movie and have it sound robotic. And before anyone says Emma Watson got singing lessons, yeah, I was trained to dissect animals in high school and college. You don't see me operating on patients, either human or animal. I would be a much happier man if I probably didn't imagine myself operating on patients. Okay, Dumbo. Where do I even begin? Bad visuals, bad writing, a perfectly good example of Disney trying to shift the focus from the flying elephant, the title character, the one we're here to actually see, to humans whose names you can't remember. How is it that I can remember the supporting cast of Pete's Dragon better than I can remember the human-focused cast of Dumbo 2019? It's just a movie that you want to forget after seeing it, and probably will forget, mainly because you fell asleep either right afterwards or during the movie. It's that boring. Aladdin 2019 is another miss. On a visual level, you can't do the genie's antics without animation, in that I think like having it in animation is the only way it works, because when you're doing it with an actor on a backdrop or a soundstage, you're going to have some kind of issues, because you have to match the timing of the actor with the timing of the special effects, rather than just dealing with the special effects, aka the animation in and of itself. It's really weird. You can't squash and stretch a human like you can a model for an animated character in 3D or a drawing. It's just not going to work that way. It's my same problem with the Avatar The Last Airbender live action remake in the Netflix series, because you're going to have to match the timing of the actors, and that's going to be what's dictating everything. But on a directorial level, this movie could have benefited from actually doing what it did at the end and did a Bollywood style musical number. Seriously, I feel like these directors and producers want to get really creative with whatever they're trying to remake, only for Disney to go come in and say, no, 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 you have to do it this way, because if you don't do it this way, it's going to be, I don't know, brand unrecognizable. I mean, really, why not have this be a whole Bollywood style musical movie set in medieval Persia, Arabia, wherever this takes place? The Lion King 2019. I don't know why I consider this a Disney live action remake when it's actually photorealistic animation, but I'm just going to go throw it here for the sake of it being here because that's the style we're trying to emulate. What is the nicest thing I can say about this movie? The Lion King 2019 feels like a gag dub of a nature documentary, except the actual lions show more expression than whatever these CGI models show, so that even doesn't work. This film desires to stand so closely to photos and photorealism, the photo in photorealism, that it ultimately harms the movie's overall visual identity. Not to mention, the story is a shot for shot remake, and I think it does more trimming than it does adding, and I think this is actually a longer movie than the original. I still can't believe how this managed to make so much money as an animated feature. It's so weird why anyone actually went to go watch this. Lady and the Tramp. It exists. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I watched this my first time, I forgot it even existed. I guess that I'm happy that they use actual dogs and didn't try to CGI everything, except maybe in a few positions where the CGI probably got uncanny, but I don't know. I don't remember this film at all. Sorry if you wanted to hear more. Mulan 2020 is bad. It is not bad because of its cultural and historic inaccuracies. One, Mulan's not a real person. Two, the story has been retold a million times. And three, most importantly, you can have a bad adaptation, but a good story. The 90s animated Hercules film. Absolutely bad adaptation of Hercules and the 12 Labors. Is it a good film? Absolutely. Here, Mulan 2020 doesn't even do that. It is a bad adaptation and a bad story. The acting is atrocious. Characters barely have dynamics. They're there to just push the plot aside without actually interacting. Thus, the emotions that come out of it can't come out of cinematography because that's bad, or editing, or character interactions. There is simply no emotion here. The fact that they removed several characters but filled the void with nothing speaks volume to the laziness of this whole thing. The Pinocchio 2022 Disney movie, I still can't believe there were like 3 Pinocchio movies in the span of that year. What was going on? Is also incompetent at being a Pinocchio movie. For crying out loud, the film acts like it's a remake of the original, although it completely turns the framing on its head to the point that it makes zero sense. What I mean by that is, the tale of Pinocchio is a moral tale where Pinocchio does something wrong or indulges in something bad, and then he gets punished for it, usually by some kind of magical consequence. So, it turns out Pinocchio basically did bullcrap wrong, but they still go through the motions of Pinocchio, and it just doesn't work. This is where Disney tried to sanitize the characters so much to the point that the perception of them doing anything wrong is simply an anathema. There are character flaws that are acceptable, such as being spineless, and then there are character flaws and mistakes that are completely off the table. Like the whole sequence where they're just having fun on an island because they're all naughty children. They're drinking root beer rather than actual beer, as opposed to actual beer turning them into a literal ass. Oh dear. How do you screw that up? Oh, drink alcohol underage, turn into a donkey. That's a punishment. Seriously, Disney, what is wrong with you? What is actually wrong with you? How are the movies you made earlier in your career somehow more risque and more willing to indulge in the idea that characters do something wrong than one made in the 2020s? This is basically a Peter Pan movie made by Zack Snyder in terms of visuals. Except that's an insult to Zack Snyder because he knows how to make over the top visuals. This one is just boring. All the whimsy of Neverland gets sucked out like a vampire's latest victim. But somehow they try to do something interesting with Wendy, Peter, and Hook. And I'm just shaking my head because at this point I'm just annoyed and just want it to be over. The visuals alone can knock out any caffeine addict. Little Mermaid 2023. This movie sounds good on a musical level, mostly. Scuttlebutt and several other instrumentals and lyrics aside, this one is where it is bogged down by poor visual direction and poor direction in general. When they are singing, I feel like they're actually singing properly most of the time. When they are acting, I feel like everyone in this cast has been given a large bottle of alcohol because they feel intoxicated. everything feels muted on the acting end. But at the same time, I feel like they were coached in such a way to deliver the lines they were given in the same manner as the 90s animated one that was released in 1989. Okay, the 1989 animated one. And this strict standing to the original is probably what did it in, because they're not allowed to breathe and get range. They're just sitting there and just reciting these lines the same way you would recite them at a reader's theater. So, what's the lesson here? Well, first off, Disney remakes should be more visually interesting, but given that the whole Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs looks really, really bad in terms of visuals, I'm not going to hold my breath over it. All these remakes are just inferior versions of the originals. They will always be compared to the originals. But I don't understand why they can't be more creative with them. They're just stick to the original as closely as possible, but live action, and try to wash it out, because this has to be the dark and adult one. Seriously, this is what we criticize the DCEU for. We're not going to let you guys off the hook. I really don't understand why they can't just try to be more creative. Like, I don't know, take Cinderella and set it in China. Or invert the Little Mermaid and have it be someone on the land who wants to go into the sea, or someone from the sky who wants to go down to Earth. I don't know. Do something more creative than whatever you've been doing. Transplanting fairy tales might actually work a bit better. I don't think it will work as well as when we're trying to transplant Dumbo into some other scenario. Fairy tales can show the universality of human emotions. I'm not sure what Lady and the Tramp might do if we, I don't know, replace them with cats or something. Those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.